Hey, this is Crystal from 31 Threads, and today we are taking a look back at 2025 and the things I finished in that year, and I look forward to 2026 and the works in progress that I have going on there. So stick around. It's been a while since I have talked about works in progress, and I've got my laptop here just so I can look back on some of the things that I'm sharing and talk about those just for a second. Most of the quilts I made, I no longer have. They were given away, sold, something. I think my daughter has one in there, and that is, well, I'm sure my daughter has one. She better still have the one I made for her. That's the only one that I still have. All the others, I'll just have to insert some pictures for you to look at. So the very first quilt that I made of 2025 was a quilt kit based off this free downloadable pattern from the Fat Quarter shop called Picnic Time. Now, I had just opened my quilt shop then, and I wanted to take a brand new fabric collection and put it with a pattern and cut that up in some quilt kits and get those going. So this was actually the first quilt kit that I offered in my fabric store, and I made it from the fabric line Blush and Butterscotch, and I'm going to insert some pictures there for you to look at. The pattern is called Picnic Time, free downloadable from Fat Quarter shop, and of course I curated that kit and sold it online. So just a quick look at that. Now that quilt went to my cousin for Christmas because she really loved it and I really love her. And so I no longer have that one. The next quilt that I finished was a quilt for my sister. And let me see if I can pull that up. That one is, the pattern is called, let's see, Picnic Florals. And no, that's the fabric, I'm sorry. The pattern is called Flower Show. Sorry about that. The pattern is Flower Show. It's from All People Quilt, and it too is a free pattern. Now, the fabric I used for that is called Picnic Florals, and that is a Riley Blake fabric from My Mind's Eyes, the designer. So I purchased that from Diane Sews and More. That's where I got the fabric, and she was wonderful to work with. I purchased backing from her as well. And so that went to my sister for Christmas, but I'm going to insert a few pictures of that finished quilt. The next quilt that I did was a baby quilt, and again this was from the Blush and Butterscotch fabric line from Riley Blake. This quilt was made with all half square triangles. Went to a very special lady in my church that I was so excited for her and her new little one. So I'll put some pictures of that in. Now I'm just scrolling through my Instagram account here so that I can remember the quilts that I've done. You're welcome to get on there and look around. I have much better pictures on there. I've tried to put all of the information on there, and it's just listed under 31 threads, 30_1_threads. So you're welcome to get on there and look around. You'll also see new items that are arriving in my store. Also, I have done YouTube tutorials for most of the quilts that I do. Very few that I don't do a tutorial. And so if you're not subscribed to my channel, you may want to hit that like button and subscribe so that you can see those tutorials, because a lot of the patterns are free. Another quilt I did was for a very close relative of mine who was celebrating a really big anniversary for her sobriety. And so I just made that pattern up. The fabric, let's see, should I had that written down? The fabric is called Homemade, and I had two 10-inch layer cakes from Riley Blake, and I didn't have any background fabric, and I needed something quick and easy that I wanted to do with just those two layer cakes. So I just kind of made that up. It's a really easy quilt to make. all you have to have is 2 layer cakes, no background fabric, anything else. It goes together super quick, and that was a very popular YouTube video, I think, because a lot of people out there just have a couple of layer cakes, or one, you could make a smaller one, just 1 layer cake, and you're, what can I do with this with nothing else? And so you may want to check that out, but I no longer have that either. That was given away. The next quilt that I made was for my daughter, and I made this all from Art Gallery fabrics. The back is a panel, and I absolutely loved this panel, and I actually did the video on some alternate things that you could do with panels. Rather than use them on the front of the quilt, try using them for a backing. And so that was what the YouTube video was about. But my daughter she loves very simple, very basic. So I took fat quarters and cut them into 4s so that there was absolutely no waste, and put this together from her. And this is a seedling collection, and I had it in my store, but it's sold out. A seedling collection by Katerina Rochella for Art Gallery Fabrics. Now, there are actually 2 different bundles of the seedlings, and those are being reprinted this month, actually, with Art Gallery. So I love this. I did 2 different quilts with these fabrics, and I may actually do a 3rd one. She is an incredible designer. She has a great YouTube channel where she does some tutorials and so along, so you might want to check that out. The next quilt that I made, let's see, and this was probably my most popular quilt that I made. I found a free online quilt pattern with Fat Quarter Shop that was called Shortbread. Charm Pack Shortbread, and all I had was 1 charm pack of Nantucket Summer. It was all I had left of the fabric, and I had a very special lady that I've went to church with for many years, and I knew that was right in her colorway, and she would really like that. But I thought, what can I do with just 1 charm pack? That video exploded, and I think people like me out there that think, what can you do with just 1 charm pack? We're just amazed to see what a really cute quilt you could do with just 1 charm pack and some background fabric. And it actually sewed up really good size for a lap quilt. So let me show some pictures of that. And again, there is a YouTube video for that if you want to check that out. The next quilt I did was for my cousin. I won't give his name, but December of last year, December 2025, made 1 year of sobriety for him. And he had sent me a message, and it never even occurred to me that he would be interested in a quilt. But he had sent me a message that said, hey, when I reach the 1 year mark, I want a quilt. And I was just so moved by that would matter to him, and that would be something he would want. And so I was really excited about that. I live in Kentucky, and he lives in Tennessee. And for any of you that know, there's always blue and orange rivalry going on. So for fun, but he was born in Kentucky. So I made him a blue and white quilt, a Kentucky colors quilt, to just kind of as a way to jest about him living in Tennessee. But I did the Confidence quilt pattern from Laundry Basket Quilts. I did it as a sew-along with 3 of my sister-in-laws and my mother. So there were 5 of us making that quilt, and we all used the same pattern, but different fabrics, different sizes. His was a queen size. And so I have a YouTube video about that if you want to check that out. And I'm inserting some pictures of that. Excuse me. But that is the Confidence quilt from Laundry Basket Quilts, and I gave that to him in December. The next quilt that I made was for my youngest brother, and I made a snowflake quilt. I've been wanting to make this pattern for a long time. It's been out for a while, and there are lots of different variations for it. He has a lot of gray and black in his house, and his house is styled very modern, and I felt like this was a very modern take on a winter quilt. And so what I did differently about this quilt, and I really enjoyed it, is that the background, the buffalo plaid of the quilt is quilting cottons. Some of those are Robert Kaufman, Kona cottons. The little white fabric is actually a bee background from Riley Blake, a bee plaid background, the little star. But the snowflake itself is made from flannel. So when I made the YouTube tutorial for that, I talked a lot about mixing cotton with flannel and what it takes to make that happen, and what you have to do in order to mix those two in a quilt top. And so if you're interested in making either the snowflake quilt or mixing flannel with cottons, that might be something you want to check out. So yeah, I made that for my brother for Christmas. And I think he liked it. And then for my other brother, I made a quilt for him and his wife for Christmas as well. Now, this was a modern quilt, and I absolutely loved it. This was the other quilt I told you I made from the Seedlings collection from Art Gallery. So this is a very modern quilt, and I really used my sister-in-law's taste with this much more than my brother. She likes very muted tones. She has a lot of white and gray in her home and uses a lot of light colors. So I had her in mind with this quilt, but this pattern is called Middle Way, and it's from Edamonia Studios. Great pattern because in the pattern, if you purchase the pattern, it comes in multiple sizes and a couple of different ways to put the blocks together, and it just shows you a lot of different varieties for that. So I made that for my other brother. So 2 quilts for both brothers last year, a quilt for my sister, a quilt for my daughter, the 3 that I gave away, plus the baby quilts. So I didn't show all of the baby quilts on here. There are a couple of others, but I wasn't sure I had enough pictures or had taken pictures of all of those. But that's a wrap on 2025. Now stick around and we'll talk about what's up for 2026. So the first goal for 2026 was to get a little more organized as far as keeping up with the quilts I've done, when I started, when I finished, and a little better at taking pictures, because you see I had to actually look at my Instagram scroll just to try to tell you what I did last year. So for Christmas this year, I just dropped an earring, but I'm leaving that in there because that's real life. Okay, so for Christmas this year, my daughter purchased this binder for me from the Fat Quarter Shop. It's a Lori Holt binder, and I love it. And you can also purchase these Busy Bee quilt binder pages to go in it. Now, you don't have to do something this foo-foo if you don't enjoy crafting or taking the time to make it look cute, whatever. But at least get a notebook and write down the quilts that you've completed, the ones that are still works in progress, when you started, maybe what fabrics you used or who you gave them to, just because at some point you will want to remember that. And so I didn't do a great job last year chronicling. I went back and started writing some of it down from my Instagram page. I'm going to try to get that completed for last year, but that's just on regular paper that I printed off. But for this year, goal number 1 is to be a little more organized. So with this binder, I already have the first 4 quilts that I have going on. I want to talk about that one. The first one is the Quilted Snowman. Now, I purchased this fabric kit to do the Quilted Snowman last year because that's when it actually started, was January 1 of last year. But as I said earlier, my fabric store opened February 1. Well, in the middle of February. It was supposed to open February 1 of last year. And I was so busy doing all the things and getting everything ready that I just could not keep up with this. And so it kind of went to the wayside. And somewhere during the year, I thought, I'm doing that next year. So I just reprinted the schedule from last year. Sorry. Reprinted the schedule for last year, and I'm using it for this year. I will say the first month is supposed to be the hardest. I heard Kimberly Jolly on Fat Quarter Shop say that if you could get through the first month, it does get easier, because I'm just going to tell you, the first month was a lot for a sew along. These little snowball blocks, and I lost count of how many there were. I want to say like 30 some of these were so time consuming, really time consuming. And so these were a lot. That was the first one, and then that was the first 2 weeks. This sew along is done not just monthly but bi-monthly, so you have two things to get done each month. That was number one. Then the second half of January were these larger blocks. There weren't as many of them, so they weren't as difficult. All my points didn't match up on these, and normally that would be something I would kind of freak out about, but I'm telling you, this has been a lot. So I'm not even worried about some of those points not matching up. I don't think anybody's going to know it but me. So January is done for that. Now, if you are just starting this as I am, one of the things I would suggest for the quilted snowman is when I took out all my fabric, pressed all of the fabric, and then I placed it in color groups. Now, you can't really tell because for this video it's all piled up here together, but I did it in color groups because there is a lot of fabric with this collection. I'm going to say probably over 40 some prints in this particular quilt kit, and then I labeled them. They're on the back of the book, shows the SKUs for each fabric, because there will be several that are called latte. If you think, well, I'll just look at the thing, it's called latte. There are several SKUs, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 SKUs that say latte. So I put the number on them as well so that I could do it exactly as the pattern called for and have an easy time identifying them. So I just went through, pressed everything, and then labeled everything with the name and the SKU number. That has made it more doable. This one, I'm hoping, as Kim Jolly said, now that the first month is passed, it'll be a little less intensive, but I'm excited about that. The next sew along I'm doing is with my mom, and this also was a sew along from last year. Last year, on a Quilting Live, they did the block of the month, and it was this cute log cabin. Let me show you. This cute log cabin, and when this first came out, the first time she did something that was very similar to this, she did it with, and I'm talking about Sherry McConnell and her daughter Chelsea. They did it with strawberry lemonade, and that's been a few years ago, and they did a log cabin with that. Now last year she did this as the quilt along, the block of the month, which is free on her blog. Every year she does a free block of the month, and it's free until the end of the year, and then you have to purchase it because she starts and does a new pattern. So this was the one from last year, and I just collected the pattern each month. I knew I couldn't do it last year, I had so many things going on, but I knew I wanted to do it this year. Last year she did it with Raspberry Summer. Now I purchased a Fat Quarter bundle of Raspberry Summer and gave that to my mom because my mom wants to do it along with me. But for myself, I actually bought the Delightfully Yours. If you've looked at Raspberry Summer and Delightfully Yours, they are so similar as far as the colors and the patterns that I really think it's not going to look very different, but it'll make my quilt be just a little bit different from Mom's, and I think that that'll be fun too. I bought my fabric from Buffalo Flats Quilt Company, and I follow her on Instagram. Like me, she's a teacher, and she's a long arm quilter, but she also has a fabric store like me. So I enjoy watching her, because I look at her and I say, oh, teacher like me, fabric store owner like me, long arm quilter like me. And so I just enjoy that. And so she has a great Instagram page. You might want to check her out. And when she does sales on her website, her sales are really good. So Buffalo Flats Quilt Company. So anyway, I'm doing that with my mom, and we're at the end of January, and so I have completed January's block. Now again, this is from Delightfully Yours, not Raspberry Summer, but it's going to be very similar. A lot of Chelsea and Sherry's fabric lines are similar in color, similar in patterns, and so I would think whether you used Raspberry Summer, Strawberry Lemonade, or Delightfully Yours, they're all going to be similar. So this was my block for that one. So these are monthly, both of these, Quilted Snowman and this block of the month. These are monthly sew-alongs. This is a sew-along that I started just for myself. I had looked at string quilts so many times, pictures of them, videos, and thought, those are so cute. And I wonder if I would enjoy making one. And I'm going to tell you what I love the most about this string quilt so far, is that when I'm working on something like these two projects, I have to be fully engaged with my mind, or I'm going to cut it wrong, sew it wrong, find a way to mess it up. And sometimes at the end of the day, I just want to sit down and do mindless sewing, mindless quilting, where I don't have to think. I'm just doing it almost like muscle memory and just enjoying it. Something easy, something that doesn't even feel like work. And that's what this string quilt is. Now, the easiest tutorial out there is from the same lady that does this blog, Quilting Life, Sherry McConnell. She has a tutorial where it's probably less than 5 minutes about how to put these together. A lot of people use newspaper print. This is actually an old sheet that was kind of stained and no purpose for that. So I'm using that as the stabilizer, because you will cut a piece of fabric that you attach the strings to. That becomes your stabilizer. And so most of the string quilts I've seen are all mismatch of colors. And what I decided to do, and I have a picture here in my binder, is to do each row a different color. So the top row is pink. And I actually started and did these pink blocks back in the fall. You can see they're all different shades of pink. Some of it's even like a peachy pink. Some of it's a bright pink, baby color pink, hot pink, but all different shades of pink for the first row. My second row is going to be red. And I finished the end of the year getting the red ones done. And you can see all different shades of red. So as I sat down and planned this out for 2026, I decided that I needed 6 more rows, because I wanted 8 rows total. And each month I'm trying to do 1 color or 1 row, which is 2 blocks a week, and that's not hard at all. I would say it takes me about 30 minutes to do a block, and that's from start to finish. So an hour a week, and I can do these colors. So for January, I did orange, and those are laying on the top. I just finished those, and you can see all different colors of orange. And what I love looking back on these, I can see fabrics I've carried in my quilt store, fabrics that just came out of my stash, and fabrics that came from my mom's house that I've seen at her house and in some of her quilts. And so I've really enjoyed doing that. There's one from my store, So just finished the orange. Next month, February, will be yellow. So I'm already starting to collect some yellow and get ready for that. But this one is going to be super fast, super easy to keep up with. The snowman will be the most time consuming. This probably took about, I'm going to say 2 or 3 hours to do the whole thing. And that's once a month. This is probably going to take about 1 hour a week. So we're looking at 4 hours a month for the strip quilt. This should be done by June, and I'm hoping in July to put the rows together to get that thing quilted. Haven't decided yet about a border. The blocks are finishing right now at 12.5 once I trim them, 12.5 by 12.5. So there will be 8 across and 8 down, and that's going to make this 96 by 96, which is huge. If I just go ahead and do like a 2-inch border around it, I think it'll fit my king size bed. So I probably will do a border around it. Now, if you notice, I put a white strip down the center of all of those so that when it's done, this white strip will make a secondary pattern in the quilt. And so if I do a border, it will probably just be this to match this white strip. That's quilt number 3. Quilt number 4 is probably the thing I'm the absolute most excited about. If you watch my channel at all, you'll see that I'm always saying, hey, I come up with this pattern or I made this pattern. Most of the time though, it's just little pieces of this and that that I've got from here and there, and it's not something really marketable because it's maybe blocks that have already been out there already. Someone else has already made them, and I'm just putting them together for my own use because it's what works with my fabric. But I love doing that. I love the creative part of it. So it's kind of been in my heart for a little while to try making and publishing some actual quilt patterns. So my very first one, and I don't want to, I'm going to scoot that back. I want to keep a little bit private for now because it's not quite published. It's completely written, and I'm right in the middle of making the sample quilt, and that's what all of this right here is. It's stuff for that quilt, and I'm making it actually with some Art Gallery solids, Art Gallery Pure. But this quilt should be finished, and I'm gonna say another week, the sample quilt that I'm working on, and then I'm going to be ready to publish my very first quilt pattern. And this one is one that I haven't seen anywhere or anything even like it. I did a pretty extensive search before I started developing the pattern just to be sure it didn't look similar to anything that was out there, because I didn't want anybody to feel like I was trying to take something that they had worked very hard on and remarket or rebrand that. So I'm so excited about that. That will be one of the things I hope to show you very soon, but I don't want to show too much of that just yet. So these are the things I'm working on for 2026. There is one more little project. Let me see if I can move this, pull it over here. One more little project that I have pulled out to do. If I get to it, I absolutely have to finish this sample quilt first. But when I finish that, this little project is something that when I purchased my long arm, I purchased it from a man whose mother sadly had passed away during COVID, when COVID was at its height in 2020. And then the long arm had sat for a little while. And so when I purchased it from him, he had a few things that belonged to his mother that he just threw in as part of all the things I was taking that day when I moved the long arm and brought it home. And so some of it was just old fabric, and a lot of it I just shared with my mom or whatever, or gave to others. But when I come across these, I was just speechless. She had made, I think there are 30 of these that she has hand embroidered, and they're all alike. But I just thought these were so incredibly beautiful. And just, I mean, so precious that she did these by hand. And I couldn't stand the thoughts of not doing something with them. So, I found some fabric that I thought went really well with these. And I'll show you the two together. This is the fabric that I found. And I think the colors are going to look great together. And I've been working on coming up with a pattern so that, and it's just something simple that I'm playing with. Haven't for sure figured out what I want to do with that yet. If I do it exactly like this, it'll finish around 63 by 63. If I go in and do some sashing, it'll be even larger. So not 100% sure about the pattern yet on that, but I would love to do something with these. I just think they're too precious to not. And that would be something I would hold on to. I give most every quilt away. The truth is, I have not made one quilt for myself, and this one's going to be for me. And I may, you know what, I may keep all of these, but that's one that I don't know if I'd want to part with it. I thought about maybe keeping that for a future grandbaby or something, but just really sweet and precious. So that kind of wraps it up. Those are my works in progress for 2025, for 2026. And I'm going to do my best at the end of each month to kind of give a progress on where I am, just because it keeps me honest, keeps me moving, keeps me going. And you leave me some comments and let me know what you're working on. Share some pictures with me, because I would love to know. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love to have you just hit that like button. When you hit like, it causes the video to go right back out and where others can see it. And then of course when you hit subscribe, that allows you to get any updates or tutorials that I'm doing. So I'd love to have you as a viewer. So thank you for quilting along with me. And so until next time, let's make a quilt.